Happening now, the first glimpse of a future British king and a closer look at what it's like growing up as an heir to the throne. Also, passengers speaking out about the chaos and the confusion of their emergency landing at LaGuardia Airport. And the scandal that cost him his seat in Congress reignites. More sexual pictures and messages from the New York mayoral candidate Anthony Weiner emerge. We're standing by for his news conference. I'm Wolf Blitzer. You're in the Situation Room.
This is CNN Breaking News.
And here is Anthony Weiner, the former Democratic congressman, now a Democratic candidate for mayor of New York, about to speak.
Take your time. Take your time.
Thank you.
Go speed, Melissa. You ready to go? Good afternoon. My name is Anthony Weiner, Democratic candidate for mayor of the city of New York. I have said that other texts and photos were likely to come out, and today they have. As I've said in the past, these things that I did were wrong and hurtful to my wife and caused us to go through many challenges in our marriage that extended past my resignation from Congress. While some of the things that have been posted today are true and some are not, there is no question that what I did was wrong. This behavior is behind me. I've apologized to my wife, Huma, and I'm grateful that she has worked through these issues with me and that I've had her forgiveness. I want to again say how very sorry I am to anyone who has received the receiving end of these messages and the disruption that this has caused. And my wife, as I have said, my wife and I, as I've said, are moving forward together. To some degree, with 49 days left until primary day, perhaps I'm surprised that more things didn't come out sooner. I'm responsible for this behavior that led us to be in this place, but in many ways, things are not that much different than they were yesterday. This behavior that I did was problematic, to say the least, destructive, to say the most, caused many stresses and strains in my marriage, but I'm pleased and blessed that she has given me a second chance. For the past several months, I've been asking New Yorkers to also give me another chance to show them that I had a vision for the middle class and those struggling to make it, and that I wanted to move forward. It is perfectly reasonable for people to ask about this chapter in my life, to be curious about it, and I'm going to be there and try to answer those questions as best I can. It is also perfectly understandable that all of you are doing your job, being here in these great numbers, and I'm sure it's not just because of the mayoral forum we're going to have in a few minutes. But all that being said, let me just reiterate to my wife how sorry I am that I did these things, and how sorry I am to the people that got these messages for any inconvenience or embarrassment they've caused. Now, some have asked the question, where does this fit in? Some timeline of the continuum of the resignation. Look, the resignation was not a point in time that was nearly as important to my wife and me as the challenges in our marriage and the challenges of the things that I had done, and working through them. Some of these things happened before my resignation, some of them happened after, but the fact is that that was also the time that my wife and I were working through some things in our marriage. I'm glad these things are behind us. I know that this was a very public thing that we had happen to us, but by no means does it change the fundamentals of my feelings here, and that is that I want to bring my vision to the people of the city of New York. I hope they're willing to still continue to give me a second chance, and I hope they realize that in many ways what happened today was something that frankly had happened before, but it doesn't represent all that much that is new. And now I have a chance to do something I haven't had a chance to do on the campaign yet. Huma, as you know, has been out there with me recently, and she had a few words that she wanted to say. So, my amazing wife, Huma Abedin.
Hi, good evening. As many of you who have followed this campaign know, I've spent a good deal out on the campaign trail. At churches and street fairs, parades. But this is the first time I've spoken at a press conference, and you'll have to bear with me because I'm very nervous. And I wrote down what I wanted to say. When we faced this publicly 2 years ago, it was the beginning of a time in our marriage that was very difficult. And it took us a very long time to get through it. Our marriage, like many others, has had its ups and its downs. It took a lot of work and a whole lot of therapy to get to a place where I could forgive Anthony. It was not an easy choice in any way, but I made the decision that it was worth staying in this marriage. That was a decision I made for me, for our son, and for our family. I didn't know how it would work out, but I did know that I wanted to give it a try. Anthony's made some horrible mistakes, both before he resigned from Congress and after. But I do very strongly believe that that is between us in our marriage. We discussed all of this before Anthony decided he would run for mayor. So really what I want to say is, I love him, I have forgiven him, I believe in him, and as we have said from the beginning, we are moving forward. Thank you very much. Thank you for your time.
I'll be glad to take one or two questions.
When did your wife find out that there were messages after the resignation?
She knew all along this process. As I was more and more honest with her, I told her everything. So this is something we knew going into the decision about whether I would run.
Do you remember all of your conversations are now having the effort? Is this over? Are you in touch with any women right now? And why should New Yorkers believe that this isn't going to, you're not going to relapse if you are mayor?
This is entirely behind me. It was when I decided to get in and we had this conversation. That is why, if you remember, in the early days of the campaign, people were pressing me for, is there more out there? And I said yes. So I said that there was. And so to some degree, this was something that we had in front of us, as Huma just acknowledged, that we knew might come up, and we decided that, look, this was something that we had worked through together, something had put behind us, and something we wanted to keep behind us. But as I've said, it's in our rearview mirror, but it's not far. We still work every day at our
Anthony, new pictures or old pictures? When you said that there was more out there, you didn't say there was more out there from the point after you resigned in June of 2011. How do you explain that? In his latest assertion, the latest chat was as recent as August of last year, 14 months after you resigned.
Yeah, I mean, I said there were more things out there. You have as a fixed time the resignation as the important moment in the public discussion. That was when the public got a glimpse into something that we had been working on before, during, and since. And this behavior of mine was part of that. And when we went through this process and we became closer and worked through some of these challenges, we put it behind us, and I put it behind me. And frankly, we're in a lot better place today, or else I would not have run for mayor.
When was the last explicit text or Facebook?
I can't say exactly. Sometime last summer, I think.
Was it after you told People Magazine, quote, or your wife told People Magazine, it took us a lot of work to get where we are today, and he was trying to be the best husband he can be?
Yes.
After that?
Yes.
There are mounting calls for you to drop out of the race. What do you say to those people who want you to drop out of the race?
I'm sure many of my opponents would like me to drop out of the race.
Are you feeling happy? When was the definitive moment here for you? You said some things were true online, some things weren't true. Can you tell us what was not true?
No, I think I've said in my statement, one of the things I'm not going to do, and I said it to your newspaper, is I'm not going to get into a back and forth with people who are releasing things, whether they be true or not. People have a right to say whatever they want, and I brought that upon myself. I'm prepared not to dispute anything that is out there, but suffice it to say that people are out there saying things that are not true. But that's not the point. That's not the point. I accept the responsibility for having these conversations with these people who I never met, with exchanging inappropriate things in the context of our marriage, and that was a mistake, and I bear responsibility for that. That is behind me, and we're trying to move forward. And we recognize it's not going to be easy. We knew at the moment we got into this race that it wasn't going to be easy, but I believe this is an important thing to be doing. Thank you all very much.
Why should we trust your judgment?
All right, so there you see an extraordinary moment in political history, especially in New York City. The Democratic candidate, some would argue the front runner to succeed Michael Bloomberg as the next mayor of New York, with his wife Huma Abedin, speaking about these latest revelations of sexting by Anthony Weiner. Dana Bash is here. Gloria Borger is here. Dana, he acknowledged that some of these new revelations of sexting occurred after he resigned from Congress.
Absolutely. He acknowledged it. His wife acknowledged it. I mean, there's so many things to dissect there. I think that the most important thing is, wow. Not just that he acknowledged that, but that this was the first time we heard his wife, Huma Abedin, speak at a press conference, but also speak about these issues. This wasn't just an issue of a scene of a wife standing by her political man. This was a wife coming up to the cameras, coming up to the microphones and talking, which was, frankly, extraordinary. She is somebody who isn't just a wife. She is very politically savvy. Those of us who knew her in Washington know she knows exactly what she's doing. And maybe most importantly, she learned at the knee of Hillary Clinton, somebody who maybe most famously stood by her man politically. And so she's following in those footsteps. That was really amazing, and that was very telling, obviously carefully choreographed for the voters of New York to see. She said, it's personal, it's between me and my husband and my family. And that is going to be the kind of thing that they are going to want New York voters to really pay attention to. And if you're talking about voters all over the country, the most likely to kind of listen to that might be New York City voters.
Well, she made the point as the wife, I have forgiven him, she said. I believe in him. The point being that, politically, if I've forgiven him, you ought to forgive him. The question New York voters now have to struggle with is, this is a matter of judgment. He says that we in the media are essentially making the resignation sort of the key point in time, because most of us would think, okay, this occurred and then you better stop because it cost you your congressional seat. They both made the point that actually to them, to their marriage, to their personal life, that wasn't the key point in time, that this was something they had to continue working on, as he just admitted, for almost a year afterwards. But it is a question of judgment, and will the voters buy this?
And I think he was aided by a powerful assist from his wife,
Absolutely.
Who showed up at that news conference and made that very emotional, important statement, as uncomfortable and as painful as it must have been for Huma Abedin. All right, stand by. We're going to continue to assess what's happened in New York. Much more coming up on the baby in London as well. The royal couple with the new baby, they emerged from the hospital. A lot of news happening today, right here in The Situation.
As I've said in the past, these things that I did were wrong and hurtful to my wife and caused us to go through many challenges in our marriage that extended past my resignation from Congress. While some of the things that have been posted today are true and some are not, there is no question that what I did was wrong. This behavior is behind me. I've apologized to my wife, Huma, and I'm grateful that she has worked through these issues with me and that I've had her forgiveness.
With his wife, Huma Abedin, at his side, you just heard the Democratic candidate for the mayoral contest in New York City apologize once again, and Huma Abedin also spoke. Dana Bash is with us. Gloria Borger is with us. The timeline is important because he resigned from Congress. He went into therapy. And then what? As long as a year later, he's now acknowledging he was still sexting, as they call it?
That's exactly what he admitted, and she admitted as well. That was the open question going into this press conference that, frankly, his campaign simply wouldn't answer. And it wasn't answered in the statement that he put out earlier. But yes, he was doing it. He resigned 2 years ago, June of 2011, making clear that he was going to go repair his marriage. He went to rehab. The thought was that if he was going to enter public life so soon after that, 2 years is not a long time in the political world, that he really did spend the last 2 years kind of cleaning up his act and not engaging in the sexting and things that he was. But it turns out it was just last year, just last August or July, that he was engaging in it.